lesson is on russet potato judging. When we're looking at a characteristic russet potato, we're looking at a potato that is firm, is clean, is mature, and well shapen. We would also like to see free from freezing, also a freedom from any kind of rhizoctonia, which is a fairly common disease in russets, but also can be very devastating as well. So let's take a look at what it really takes to judge potatoes. Now here's a great example of what I'm talking about: is firm, well shapen, clean, and also very smooth in terms of their skin. Sometimes it used to be called netting, but most of the time now it's just called their skin. The skin needs to be uniform, and also well, you don't want it to be skinned, in other words. So you want that kind of protection that russets give with their skin. One of the first things that I do, for at least my students anyway, is I want them to kind of get an overview of some of the samples. But I want you to also understand you need to keep the scorecard in your head. There's some terms that you need, some general terms you need to have as you're surveying all of these. So let's go ahead and take a look at them. When I first have them, look, here's plate number 1. I haven't placed them yet. As you can see, these are relatively uniform. There's little to no skinning. And as we go to plate 2, not as uniform. They're a little bit misshapen. They have some blemishes on them. They're not very eye-appealing in terms of a retail product. Here we also have some that are not uniform, a little bit misshapen. Their skin is a little bit firmer and a little bit more uniform, like russet potatoes should have, but they're a little bit on the small side. And then when we take a look at plate number 4, these are much more characteristics of a market size, but a little misshapen on one of them. The skinning is, I would say, probably moderately skinned, and we have a couple of blemishes on that. So that's how I just will take a look at it. And then what I do is I put the score card up here, and you can see that we had, like for instance, this one, number 4, had a few conditioning problems. They weren't very true to type as far as their shape, but the quality is pretty good. And like the first one that we saw, extremely good condition, very uniform, very true to type. It's, I think, a very mature type of potato, and the size are the market of market condition. So we have this one, number 4 and number 1 are my 2 probably top ones, and then I've got 2 and 3 somewhere on the bottom pair. So, but before I do that, what I want to do is I want to take a look at some other general considerations, because we've got to get some more terms down. One of the things we're going to be looking for is any kind of scabbing, and we saw that kind of scabbing, but in a little smaller scale on one of the potatoes that we'll look at again. So scab or scabbing is one of those areas. It's usually a fungal, because you can tell by the circular pattern it leaves. Also, another big one would be rhizoctonia, sometimes called black scurf. And it kind of looks like soil on it, but it's kind of more puffy, and it's not as light colored as soil would be. And then another one is sprouting. Sprouting takes away from a lot of the integrity and quality of potato. And remember, these are tubers. They're modified stems. And because they are modified stems, you're going to have leaves growing out from what we call lenticels. And those lenticels are sometimes called the eyes of potato. And if they're on the shelf too long, they start to sprout, and because they want to grow. And all of that energy that's stored up in their tuber is going to come out in the form of the sprouting or another stem or leaves. So we're going to look at we're going to start evaluating them and start applying terms to some of the things we see. And we're going to try to, again, we're going to put 1 and 4 at kind of the top, and then 2 and 3 in the bottom, in no particular order. And we're just going to talk it through so that when you're in a contest, you'll be able to kind of see what goes on in your head. So when we take a look at these potatoes on number 1, again, the thing that strikes me about them is extremely uniform, excellent condition. They don't have any large lenticels or eyes. They're very smooth, I think very appealing to the eye. Number 4, they're not quite as appealing. I still think they're a good potatoes. They're very good in terms of their uniformity and size, but we got a few things wrong with them, some blemishes here that just can't go unlooked. It's also misshapen right in here, and you can see some of the skinning, some slight skinning on it, so they're not 100% true to type as far as the skin is concerned. Now number 2 here, as I look at this one, it has a lot of problems in terms of its skinning. It's badly skinned. Over 50% of the plate is lightly skinned or is not doesn't take very well to any kind of abrasion, or and that's a scab right there that we see on number 2. And number 3, as I look at it, I thought this was probably the worst, but as I look at it, it's a little misshapen, but not bad. The skinning is about where it ought to be. They have one potato there is kind of on the small side. So this one, it lacks uniformity, lacks some of the commercial size that we'd like to see on russet potatoes. So that's what we have, and so I'm probably going to rescore it again or reevaluate it so that I can put it in the correct order. So I'm going to go ahead and go with 1, 4, 3, and 2. I'd like to give you a set of reasons as we go along so you get an idea of what they should sound like, and hopefully better than mine. All right, sample 1 I put in first place today, primarily because of its condition and its overall uniformity in its size and its shape. It lacks any kind of skinning, so it may be slightly skinned on one potato, but I think this is going to yield the best in terms of the consumer, and of course do extremely well on the retailer showcase. And I've put just above each one a scorecard so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. So in second place today, I put sample number 4. Number 4 is also, I think, very uniform in its size, but I think it lacks some quality in terms of its eye appeal in the retailer showcase. You have some slightly skinned potatoes in this group, so they're not really up to standard as far as what we're looking for in today's market. But still, I think from a consumer's point of view, I think this is still a very good set of potatoes. Sample 3 is going to be my third slot today. It's third place primarily because of its size. I'd like to see a little bit more size to it, and in particular, there's one in there that's probably about 1 to 7/8 in diameter, and that's kind of on the lower edge. This particular one also has extremely good skinning, doesn't have a lot of large lenticels or eyes on it, so I like this in number 3. If I were to change it, I would increase its size and its uniformity. And then the last place today is going to be sample number 2. Number 2, I think, lacks a lot of the market character and quality that we need to see in the retailer showcase, and it's as over 50% of it is skinned. That makes it a difficult thing to ship, and also a difficult thing to keep fresh on the retailer showcase today. I think this one still is, in terms of edibility, it is definitely there, but it lacks, in my opinion, the size and overall condition and quality that we need to see in the retailer showcase today. So there you have it, my reasons for russet potatoes, and I hope that this has helped you kind of sort through the maze of judging russet potatoes. And we'll be seeing you at the next contest. Thanks so much. Bye.